blood bank in Prague, Czech Republic, Jared Namek has come to donate blood. As he is being led into the donation room, he is informed that his blood is of a rare phenotype. Bad news for Jared, good news for the blood bank. The phlebotomist says and bares his vampire fangs. Jared laughs hysterically. Suddenly, his chin cracks open, revealing a gaping maw with the barbed tongue. He pounces on the phlebotomist's neck, and blood flies everywhere. 2 years have passed since Blade's mentor, Abraham Whistler, shot himself after being brutally beaten and bitten by vampires. When Blade learned that the vampires were keeping Whistler alive, he followed their trail through Eastern Europe, first to Moscow, then to Romania, and now to the Czech Republic. When Blade discovers that the vampires are keeping Whistler in stasis in a halfway house, he breaks into the house and rescues him, after killing a number of vampires with silver stakes and bullets made of silver nitrate and garlic extract. One accelerated retrovirus detox shot later, and Whistler is back among the living, free from vampires amid his unrelated cancer sickness. Much has happened in the last 2 years. Blade has taken on a new assistant named Scott, who doesn't get along very well with Whistler, now that he's returned. The High Council of Vampires has created a group of 6 warriors, referred to as the Blood Pack, who are being trained to fight against Blade. However, a vampire virus called the Reaper strain has mutated in Jared Namek, who passes the virus to everyone he bites. Since the Reaper virus makes carriers extremely voracious, Namek and each of his victims need to feed daily, and they feed on both humans and vampires. And the vampires fear the Reapers will first wipe them out, then start on humans. Soon, you do the math. Now that the Reapers are presenting an even bigger threat to the vampires than Blade ever did, Vampire Overlord Elijah Maskinus has sent a message to Blade, requesting a truce and asking him to join with the vampires and actually lead the Blood Pack against the Reapers. Blade agrees, but the Blood Pack, Lighthammer, Verlaine, Priest, Snowman, Cupid, and Reinhardt are not happy being led by the Daywalker they were training to kill. To assure their cooperation, Blade plants a silver nitrate bomb, courtesy of Scud, on the back of Reinhardt's head. Blade holds the detonator, and it is set to explode should anyone tamper with it. Accompanied by the vampires Asad and Nissa, daughter of Overlord Damaskinus, Blade and his Blood Pack begin their search for Namek by staking out places where vampires congregate, such as blood banks and safe houses. Figuring these places will also be attractive to the Reapers. First on the list is the House of Pain, an old hotel converted into a safe house sheltering some 200-300 suckheads, all dancing and feeding. As the Blood Pack searches the building, Reapers begin emerging from the sub-basement. About a half hour before dawn, the Reapers attack. The Blood Pack manages to take out several Reapers with ultraviolet guns, but Namek gets away, even after being injected with the anticoagulant EDTA, and a Reaper bites Priest, requiring that Priest be destroyed in the rising sun. Lighthammer also gets bitten, but he hides it. In this first battle with the Reapers, Blade learns that Reapers are impervious to silver, EDTA, and garlic, and they rapidly bounce back from almost any wound, including silver stakes thrust into their chests. How in the world can these creatures be stopped? And whose side should Blade be on anyway, considering that both Blade and Namek are enemies of the vampires? Meanwhile, back at the High Council, Damaskinus' lawyer, Karel Kaunin, has informed Damaskinus of Priest's death and warns the Overlord that he is playing a dangerous game, one that could result in his daughter's death. Damaskinus informs Kaunin that his friend inside says that everything is going as planned. Friend inside? Who could that be? One of the Blood Pack, Nissa, Whistler, outside the House of Pain, Scud and Whistler, who have been working surveillance from the van and on the roof, have managed to capture a Reaper who was trying to escape down a manhole into the sewers but got stuck. For some odd reason, this Reaper is dying. Blade surmises that the Reaper's body, having gone several hours without feeding, is beginning to feed on itself. Since he is dying anyway, this provides Nissa with an opportunity to perform an autopsy and learn more about the Reapers. She learns that the barbed tongue contains a nerve toxin to paralyze the victim while the Reaper feeds. Their hearts are encased in bone, making it virtually impossible to shove a stake through them. The only thing that seems to affect them is exposure to sun and to ultraviolet light. Unfortunately, these are also deadly to vampires, which is going to make it difficult for Blade to destroy the Reapers without harming his vampire allies. Scud spends the rest of the night working to build UV grenades out of phosphor rods. The next morning, meaning to use daytime, the only advantage they have over the Reapers, Blade, Whistler, Nissa, Azam, and the Blood Pack, armed with UV guns, UV grenades, and large-scale UV bombs, go down into the sewers. They split into 3 units. Whistler goes with Chupa and Reinhardt down the east tunnel. Lighthammer, Verlaine, and Snowman go in the opposite direction, and Blade goes with Assam and Nissa. Unfortunately, treachery abounds. When Chupa and Reinhardt get Whistler alone, Chupa beats him up. We lose a partner and Blade loses one, Chupa threatens. Lighthammer completes his evolution into the Reaper and feasts on Snowman, then goes after Verlaine, who has no recourse other than to open the manhole cover, killing both herself and Lighthammer in the sunlight. Then the Reapers start arriving, crawling on the sewer floor, walls, and ceiling. Assam is attacked by a half-dozen Reapers crawling underwater. Blade sets off a UV grenade, killing all the Reapers, but it is too late for Assam. Chupa falls prey to Reapers. Reinhardt is being followed by Reapers, so he sets a UV bomb, but the detonator sticks. Blade radios orders to everyone to regroup, but the only ones left standing are Nissa, Reinhardt, and Blade, so Blade goes back to get the UV bomb that Reinhardt left behind. Only after Blade has found the bomb and is surrounded by dozens of hungry Reapers does Reinhardt radio Blade to inform him that the detonator doesn't work. Holding off Reapers with both hands, Blade kicks at the lever until it finally gives. 10 seconds later, UV light floods the tunnels. It fries the Reapers, but it also hits Nissa and Reinhardt. Whereas Whistler? Whistler has met up with Namek who, instead of attacking him, has given Whistler a ring and told him to tell Blade the truth, which Namek whispers in Whistler's ear. Meanwhile, Blade has caught up with Nissa to find her severely burned by the UV bomb and badly in need of blood, so he cuts his wrist and makes her drink his blood. Suddenly, Blade is shot in the back with stun guns. Counin and Reinhardt step in. Vampires from the council round up Whistler, Nissa, and Blade and deliver them to Damascus. When Nissa regains consciousness, she is back in her father's study. She tells him how Blade saved her life and asks whether he is still alive. Oh, Blade's alive all right. He, Scud, and Whistler are being held in a chamber deep in Damascus sanctuary. Just as Whistler begins to tell Namek's truth to Blade that the Reaper virus didn't evolve, it was genetically designed, Damascus, Nissa, and Reinhardt enter the chamber. Damascus explains that he has been searching for a way to rid the vampires of their hereditary weaknesses by recombining DNA. As he talks, he shows Blade a cylinder filled with hundreds of small fetal vampires. Namek was first, Damascus says, but Namek was a failure and that he isn't immune to light. Soon, however, Damascus thinks he will have created a new pure race of day-walking vampires, immune to silver and sunlight. All he needs is to figure out why Blade is immune to light and then program that quality into his fetal vampires. Whistler tosses Namek's ring at Damascus' feet. Nissa recognizes it immediately as the Damascus family crest. Turns out that Namek is Damascus' son, Nissa's brother. She storms out, followed by her father. Reinhardt takes this chance to beat up on Blade, but Blade pulls out the detonator to the UV bomb on the back of Reinhardt's head. He presses the detonator button, but nothing happens. Scud laughs. I designed the bomb to be a dud, Scud explains as Reinhardt pulls it off his head and tosses it to Scud. Scud then tells Blade how he's been Damascus' familiar all along. What do you think of that? Scud asks Blade. 2 things, says Blade. 1, I've known about you all along, and 2, the bomb isn't a dud. Blade then presses a second button. Goodbye, Scud. Blade is then repeatedly stun-gunned and taken to an operating room where Counin drives spikes through Blade's body in order to secure him. Counin explains that he is going to harvest Blade's blood and body parts in order to search for the key to what makes him a daywalker. However, Whistler manages to get out of his handcuffs, knock out Reinhardt, and escape through the floor ducts to the operating room. He shoots Counin and releases Blade. Blade is drained of blood and severely weakened, so Whistler carries him into a bloodbath where Blade quickly regenerates. The first thing Blade does after leaving the bloodbath is to take out 2 or 3 dozen guards. Next, he slices Reinhardt in half from head to toe. Then he's off to find Damascus while Whistler destroys the fetal vampires. Meanwhile, Nissa is having it out with her father. She feels totally betrayed because Damascus sent her and her blood pack out, expecting them to die. He used both of his children, her and Namek, for his own purposes, and he used Blade, too. Blade, her supposed enemy, saved her life. As she debates where her loyalties lie, Namek has succeeded in invading the inner sanctum where Nissa has sealed herself in Damascus. Damascus attempts to apologize to his son for all that has befallen him, but Namek bites his father's neck anyway. As Damascus lay dying on the floor, his bluish-green blood spilling out, Nissa takes off her family ring and tosses it in her father's blood. Nissa then offers herself to Namek who dives into her neck. 2. Enter Blade. A drawn-out fight ensues between Blade and Namek until Blade manages to thrust his sword through Namek's side, the one place where his heart is unprotected by bone. Namek seems almost happy and, in fact, thrusts the blade further, and his body disintegrates. Poor Nissa has been bitten and can already feel her body changing into that of a Reaper. I want to die while I'm still a vampire, she tells Blade. I want to see the sun. Blade carries her outside. Together, they watch the sunrise before Nissa burns up in Blade's arms. In the end, Blade disposes of Rush, the vampire he had left alive in the beginning of the movie, at the vampire's halfway house.